Good evening. Tonight we're diving deep into a story with potentially seismic implications for the global economy. It's a story about tariffs, trade wars, and the high-stakes game of international relations. We're talking about President Trump's proposed 60% tariffs on a wide range of goods, a move that has sent shockwaves through the global trading system. This isn't just about numbers, it's about the very fabric of international cooperation and the potential for a full-blown trade war. Our source for this deep dive is an article from RT which lays out the potential consequences of this bold move. We'll examine the arguments for and against, the potential winners and losers, and what this all means for the future of the global economy. President Trump's proposed tariffs target a vast array of goods imported from around the world. We're talking everything from automobiles to electronics, from clothing to food products. The administration argues these tariffs are essential to protect American jobs and industries from what they call unfair foreign competition. They say it's time to level the playing field, to force other countries to play by the rules they believe heavily favor our economic rivals. The 60% figure is not arbitrary, it's a calculated shot across the bow, a signal that the US is done playing nice in the global marketplace. But critics argue that these tariffs are nothing short of economic suicide, that they will harm the very people they're intended to help. They warn of higher prices for consumers, job losses in industries that rely on imports, and a chilling effect on global trade. This isn't just about economics, it's about geopolitics. These tariffs, they say, could alienate our allies, embolden our adversaries, and undermine the rules-based international order that has governed global trade for decades. The question is, are these tariffs a negotiating tactic, a way to extract concessions from our trading partners? Or are they the opening salvo in a trade war that could have devastating consequences for the global economy? To understand the potential impact of these tariffs, we need to look back at history to examine past US trade policies and their consequences. Throughout the 20th century, the US championed free trade, advocating for the reduction of tariffs and other barriers to international commerce. This approach, they argued, would lead to greater economic prosperity for all nations. And for a time it seemed to work. Global trade flourished, lifting millions out of poverty and fueling unprecedented economic growth. But the political winds have shifted. The rise of populism, fueled by anxieties over globalization and job displacement, has led to a resurgence of protectionist sentiment in the United States and around the world. We saw it with the Brexit vote, the election of Donald Trump, and the rise of right-wing nationalist parties across Europe. These movements are fueled by a deep-seated belief that globalization has benefited elites at the expense of ordinary workers, that free trade agreements have shipped jobs overseas and hollowed out the American middle class. Trump's tariffs are a reflection of this new reality, a rejection of the free trade orthodoxy that has guided US policy for decades. The question now is, will this new era of protectionism lead to a more prosperous and equitable world? Or will it usher in an age of economic stagnation and global conflict? One of the most immediate and tangible impacts of these tariffs will be felt by ordinary Americans, by consumers who rely on imported goods for everything from their morning coffee to their smartphones. Economists warn that these tariffs will lead to higher prices on a wide range of consumer goods, hitting low and middle-income households the hardest. They argue that these price increases will act as a regressive tax, disproportionately impacting those who can least afford it. But the administration dismisses these concerns, arguing that the long-term benefits of protecting American jobs and industries outweigh the short-term costs. They point to the need to revitalize American manufacturing, to bring back jobs that have been lost to globalization. But critics argue that these tariffs will do more harm than good, that they will disrupt supply chains, raise costs for businesses, and ultimately lead to job losses in industries that rely on imports. They warn of a ripple effect throughout the economy as higher prices and reduced consumer spending stifle economic growth. The reality is, the economic impact of these tariffs is complex and difficult to predict with certainty. There will be winners and losers, industries that benefit from protectionism and those that suffer from reduced trade. Only time will tell what the ultimate impact of these tariffs will be on the American economy. The impact of these tariffs extends far beyond American shores. The European Union, Canada, Mexico, and other close allies have all condemned the tariffs, vowing to retaliate with their own tariffs on American goods. This tit-for-tat escalation has raised fears of a global trade war, a scenario in which countries engage in a self-defeating cycle of protectionist measures, harming businesses and consumers around the world. The Trump administration argues that these tariffs are necessary to force other countries to the negotiating table to address what they see as unfair trade practices. They point to China in particular, accusing them of currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, and forced technology transfer, but critics argue that these tariffs are counterproductive, that they will only serve to alienate our allies and embolden our adversaries. They warn that these tariffs could unravel the global trading system, a system that has underpinned decades of peace and prosperity. The stakes are high. At risk is not just the global economy, but the very fabric of international cooperation. The Trump administration's decision to impose these tariffs represents a fundamental break from decades of US trade policy. It is a rejection of the multilateral, rules-based system that has governed global trade since the end of World War II. Instead, the administration is pursuing a more unilateral, transactional approach, one that prioritizes American interests above all else. This approach has raised concerns among many in the international community who fear that it could lead to a more chaotic and unpredictable world order. They argue that the rules-based system, despite its flaws, has provided a framework for peaceful economic cooperation, promoting stability and prosperity. They warn that undermining this system could have far-reaching consequences, leading to increased trade disputes, geopolitical tensions, and even conflict. The Trump administration, however, argues that the current system is outdated and no longer serves American interests. They believe that a more assertive, go-it-alone approach is necessary to protect American jobs and businesses in an increasingly competitive global economy. The question now is, what will this new world order look like? Will it be one of greater prosperity and cooperation, or one of conflict and instability? One of the most significant impacts of this trade war is the uncertainty it has injected into the global economy. Businesses thrive on predictability, on knowing the rules of the game. But the Trump administration's unpredictable and often contradictory statements on trade policy have left businesses large and small scrambling to adjust. This uncertainty has already had a chilling effect on investment as businesses hold back on expansion plans, waiting to see how the trade war plays out. The stock market, a barometer of investor confidence, has experienced increased volatility, with wild swings in response to every new tariff threat or trade negotiation. This uncertainty is not limited to the United States. Around the world, businesses are feeling the pinch as global supply chains are disrupted and consumer confidence takes a hit. The International Monetary Fund has warned that the trade war could shave billions off global economic growth, with developing countries particularly vulnerable. The longer this uncertainty persists, the greater the risk of a global economic slowdown. The world is watching, waiting to see whether cooler heads will prevail, or whether this trade war will escalate into a full-blown crisis. The implications of this trade war extend far beyond the realm of economics. This is about geopolitics, about the shifting balance of power in the world. The Trump administration's aggressive trade policies have alienated many of America's closest allies, creating an opening for China to assert itself as a leader on the world stage. China has responded to US tariffs with its own retaliatory measures, targeting American agricultural products and other key exports. But China is also playing a longer game, seeking to strengthen its ties with other countries, particularly in Europe and Asia. They're offering themselves as a reliable trading partner, a champion of free trade and multilateralism, in contrast to the United States' more protectionist stance. This trade war is just one front in a larger geopolitical struggle between the United States and China. a struggle for economic and technological dominance that will shape the 21st century. The outcome of this struggle will have profound implications for the future of the global order. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, from the specifics of President Trump's tariff plan to the broader implications for the global economy and the rules-based international order. What's clear is that we are at a crossroads. The decisions made in the coming months and years will have far-reaching consequences, shaping the future of global trade, international relations, and the very nature of the global economy. It's more important than ever to stay informed, to understand the issues at stake, and to engage in thoughtful dialogue about the path forward. We'll continue to follow this story closely, providing in-depth analysis and reporting as events unfold.